All right. Gonna call to order the Knox County Rules Committee. Thank you all for being here. We have Ms. Hayden Wilson. She was recently married in October. Congratulations.
Yeah.
With us, Ms. Wilson, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Durrett. Here. Commissioner Oster. Here. Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Day.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Present.
All members are present.
Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, to the amendments in addition to the agenda, we have several folks who have a time crunch today. So if it is okay with the body, we're going to change the order a little bit. Commissioner Daly will go first, and then Commissioner Durrett will come in after him. Is that okay?
No,
We're gonna-
I'd like to combine 9 and 10, I think we're talking about the same thing. So you can just scratch mine and
Okay,
we're in the same ballpark, so.
perfect, okay. Thank you for that, Commissioner Day, appreciate it. Okay, are we okay with setting the agenda? Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting from December 7th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion to approve by Jay, second by Durrett. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, guys, have it. Public forum, do we have any here? We do not. Moving on. Discussion and consideration of any late additions. We don't seem to have any of those. All right, we are now at item number 6, discussion and consideration of including guidelines for commission attendance to prepaid conferences to commission rules. This would fall under Rule 6, miscellaneous, D, outside conferences and travel. Commissioner Daly, would you like to tell us a little bit about why you brought this to us?
Yes, I want to thank you, Madam Chair, and the Rules Committee, and other commissioners here today. This is my 8th year, final year, being to just about every conference that we've had. And in the past, we've had people that commissioners, and I think other departments too, because I see other departments there at some of these meetings, that they apply to go to the conferences. It costs us money, costs the taxpayers money for the fees. It costs us taxpayers money to spend the night at the hotel, 1 or 2 nights, whatever the maximum or the minimum is. And I just don't think, I think in our rules, we need in the future, and I apologize, I should have brought this up long before this as far as that goes, but it's not fair that taxpayers are paying for fees and rooms for Knox County employees. I'll just say all Knox County employees, not attend, commit to go to a conference and then not do it. And I understand there may be certain situations where there's sickness or something like that. But you've heard me say that if you sign up for a committee, and you need to be at that committee. If you sign up to go to a conference, you need to go to that conference. To me, I look at it as taxpayers' dollars, is what it is. It could be anywhere from Gatlinburg conference probably would cost us $500, all the way to if you was to go to NACO, that could be thousands of dollars, whatever that may be. So I would like for I would like for this rules committee to consider some type of a reimbursement policy or something there that if you sign up to go, you commit to go to a conference, you go to the conference, or you reimburse the taxpayers.
You commit and she's paid and it's been paid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you don't far enough in advance, you can get Drew and cancel a lot of it. But, on the last minute notice, and I'm not naming any names, but we've had a commissioner that, lo and behold, she signed up for every conference and never showed up. It cost the taxpayers a lot of money in the past. That's not right. I'm sorry, it's just not right.
Do we have any other circumstance in which a reimbursement policy for
for a county employee is, it's something that would be, I mean, is there another legislative body or even a county employee that works in any other department that has such a policy?
I'm not aware of one.
Is there anything that is legal, illegal that we could or could
That's
not?
gonna be my question.
I don't see anything that prevents you from doing it.
Is it legally bindable just because it's a rule and commission?
Well, that's the
If a rule
stickier
says
part.
you must
That's the
reimburse-
stickier part. You would have to, I guess, depend on either the honor of the person to stroke a check or to withhold from their next paycheck whatever the reimbursement amount is, which means you'd have to work with the finance department.
Or we can take it away from their commission designation funds.
That's not,
And Commissioner Schoonmaker had a great idea at one time, and he still probably does, that, figure out what the conferences are. If it's $12,000, each commissioner gets $10,000 or $12,000, and that comes out of that designation fund. Yes, sir. And if you don't go to that conference, that money's coming out of your designation fund, but it's still county,
still spent.
it's still county or tax money as far, but it's still some type of incentive that you go.
So you're saying increase the designation funds as the total, which might include things that we might support the community with, including continuing education, which is what the conferences are. And then, but it's paid out of that or something, is that?
Well, I'm not saying that we increase it, I'm just saying that was a suggestion in the past, and that would be one way. Say, Drew, what's the average, about 2,500 maybe? If you don't go to NACO,
That's a good estimate.
So if you go $7,500, you've got $2,500, well, you got $2,500 of that to go to the conferences or whatever.
I might make the suggestion, we also talk to HR and personnel, because I
Yeah,
know
this is
they're-
just a suggestion, no
Yeah.
motion, it's just a suggestion that over 8 years, I've seen a lot of taxpayers' money that should have been spent up more wisely, okay, let's put it that way.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. If the body, please,
May I'm not on the
Yes,
committee,
yes,
but
please. I'll allow you a minute.
I appreciate that in principle. I think it's spot on. My concern, and I'm not against it, my concern though is that where do you get into this business of what's excused and what's not excused? I mean, of course, if someone has a, unexpected death in the family or you just like get sick is one thing, but there's some, oh, well, I have a work commitment, oh, I have a court day, oh, I have, well, where do we draw that line? That's the difficulty in all of
That
it.
is a difficulty. Somebody would have to judge whether you had a good cause for missing.
Yeah,
Because like you said, you can have sickness, but do you have to bring his doctor's note? I mean, and in a political body, you may find it difficult to vote that one of your colleagues' excuse is not good cause. So that's something to consider. With these kinds of things, enforcement is always the problem. And so it would bear some thought about how you go about structuring it to make it work.
Commissioner Schoonmaker, you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree with what Carson's saying. I think where I have a problem is if somebody has signed up to go for a conference, decides a week in advance they're not going to a conference. In the meantime, Drew's already paid a registration fee that is non-refundable at that point. But she's also guaranteed hotel rooms for 2 nights. A week in advance, usually we have to cancel the hotels 24 hours in advance, but just to
It's actually 72 hours.
okay, 72 hours, but just not to say anything to Drew and give her the option at least calling the hotel and saying, hey, this individual's not coming, and allowing another commissioner from some other county the opportunity to have that hotel room. It's just crazy because the recent incident, we paid for 2 nights and nobody showed up,
Well, you might be able to put in our rules that each commissioner that signs up for a conference is encouraged to attend the conference because it's using taxpayers' money, something in the rule that not necessarily that it would be enforceable, but it's there to encourage. If you sign up, you're very, very encouraged. And I understand there's some things that may happen or whatever, but
If the body is comfortable, I can get with our law department and personnel and just kind of talk through this and then maybe bring it back to our next meeting for discussion, and if you're,
Yeah,
if you're comfortable with
I
that.
think the way to tie some kind of enforcement is to just reduce the value of your designation funds. Because then you have a pool of resources to help your district or your constituents. And if you ignore something and you don't cancel within a week or something, whatever the hard costs that are eaten, it's a one budget for us as a commission office, but that would be an incentive, maybe not come out of your personal pocketbook, but it would ding you. You're not gonna have as much to help support your district, so I think that if we can tie it to that, then it stays within the same budget line item or the same budget pool, but it definitely has a little bit of teeth to it, because then if you bailed on a $100 expense to go to Washington DC or whatever, then I'm gonna notice it when I need to go
Yeah.
get some checks cut, so.
Well, I will work on that, and then I will provide you with, kind of just
You can
a
read it.
draft,
Thank
and
you very
then
much.
bring to the body.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thanks.
Very good.
don't be gone.
All right, we're moving on to agenda item number 9, discussion consideration commission schedule by Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you. So you should have in front of you a somewhat complete line item or red line copy of some changes I would propose to our commission schedule. And I'm also gonna, and you should also have the current April meeting or April calendar that Drew always puts out. What I'm handing out now, it says draft at the top, would include what April would look like, with these changes in place. So what I'm proposing is several things. One is the elimination of our workshop, and I'll go through the reasoning here momentarily. So we eliminate work session altogether. We move our zoning meetings from 7 PM on the 4th Monday to 5 PM on the 3rd Monday. So essentially, our zoning meetings would replace our work session. We can add an agenda review meeting to the 3rd Monday at 3 PM or another time, but after the agenda is released. The agenda would be released at the same time it is now, which is the Thursday before the third Monday. Beer board can remain the same at the same time, 3rd Monday at 4. Our legislative meeting remains on the 4th Monday at 5 PM. And I would propose that once the kinks get worked out, that the schedule change would begin September 1st for our new members. And the reasoning for this is, well, there are several. One, when you think about our work session and all of our deliberation, while it is valid, a majority of the time, I would even say 90+% of the time, our motion at work session, whatever we're deliberating, is to move forward with no recommendation. And so then it goes to our legislative agenda. Case in point, when we had the utility ordinance and resolution in March, we talked for an hour and 3 minutes at work session with no resolution to send it forward to our legislative meeting, where we again talked about it for an hour and 4 minutes. There was a resolution then, so it's just, there's a lot of talk and then we don't make any action at work session. Another reason behind it, moving up zoning to 5 PM allows for those constituents who are involved in the zoning to be able to get there earlier. They can get home earlier. Also, it avoids a recess of our legislative session when we do have those that go on and on and on, where we have to stop and go into recess so we can start zonings and then have to go back into commission later. Our county staff, while they aren't technically hourly, that is cutting into their time, right? We are extending their work time, and so it would avoid that. It eliminates redundancy at our work session and at our legislative meeting. We read drives and roads twice, line item transfers twice, budget amendments twice, read of record twice. And ordinances, when they're on their first reading, they get read at work session, we move forward to, it's just, they're technically being read 4 times instead of 2. They have 4 readings instead of 2 because of the work session. And then it holds commissioners accountable. It kind of forces our hand to actually look at the agenda ahead of time, because there's not that kind of cushion work session where you can come not knowing anything and listen to everybody chat and then make a decision then. And it can keep us on topic as well, because it gives us a narrow window of time. So we're there to do business and not just sit and drone on and on and on. And so those are reasonings behind this. If you want to look at, and it's really to make things more efficient and be more streamlined. And again, have the public in mind for being able to attend meetings. Because, if you think back to some meetings where we've not even gotten through public forum and we've had to go to recess for zonings and then come back to public forum, those people are sitting there having to wait for our zoning meeting to take place. And so this gets it out of the way. And again, for those who would like to consider, who like the work session and want to talk through it ahead of time with commissioners, we can have a standing agenda review meeting. I put it on the draft calendar. Look, I handed out all of them. But that's okay, I have an electronic version. I put it on the same day that work session would take place, but at 3 o'clock. So an hour before beer board starts. We can have it standing, we can have it in this room, we can public notice it, the public can come if they want to, but it'll still allow for that opportunity for commissioners to sit and discuss and go over anything they want to with the agenda. So that's my proposal. It's really to get rid of redundancy, to make it more efficient, and to really allow our constituents plus our county employees time back in consideration of their lives outside of work. So, love to hear your thoughts. Again, there's a red line. There's a lot of things that would have to be gone through and talked through. So in it highlights everywhere where it says work session. One thing we would need to consider is the education consent calendar, but we don't really discuss anything. I think the way our consent calendar would be formed is if we don't pull it from the calendar or the agenda once it's, by a certain date, then it remains on consent.
It's pretty much how it's working now.
That's how it is now.
Yeah.
So if we don't pull it, it remains on consent, and we'll bring it up at the meeting.
I always like to start with how we got to the point before we think about where we go. Is there any context as to why the structure was placed?
I'd say this, it happened after I became a judge, because we didn't, in the before days, we didn't have work session, and we did have committees.
Right.
But we didn't have the work session as such. So sometime after I left, David, do you know when they opened the?
When it went from 19 to 11, because you had the finance and intergovernmental.
Okay.
And then when you went to 11, they just changed those committees, because they met a week prior, did they not? I think they just changed it to work session.
That was passed right after I left.
because I believe those committees made a recommendation to the full commission. They went through the agenda and said, okay, we're in favor of number 12, we're opposed to number 13, we're in favor of number 14. And so they had already done the homework,
Right,
and then when you came to commission, you just
right.
could
Which
take
is
the
typically how a
recommendation or
board
not.
works, your committees do the
Yeah.
work and they bring the recommendations to the voting body, so.
That's how some of our smaller counties in
Right.
DC do it.
Well-
We had talked about that at some point about, does everything should everything go through a committee and come out of committee first?
We did, yes,
Like everything,
everything.
before it even hits the agenda?
Mhm.
Is that something that's worth considering as, if you're gonna break all
You're probably talking, if you do that, into making a 1-month process into a 2-month process. So for example, we've got a contract we're about to sign for Westlaw for the governmental library. We have some changes we want to make to it, or at least talk about. We're planning to put that on for May. But if we were to do that, if it's ready in May, it wouldn't be heard till June, because we'd have to put it through the committee system in May,
Right.
and then the meeting in June, potentially, unless you really compressed a committee meeting schedule.
We did change the rules though, that anything can be said, if the commission body feels like they don't have enough information or they want additional research or just more details about something, we did include that in our rules, that it can go to a committee and we can ask them for a recommendation to be sent back to the body. So we changed that and we can do that by our rules. But
We
Like
just
it's-
changed it though.
yeah, we just changed it,
Yeah.
yeah. But again, it may be that those committees then have to meet monthly rather than, some of them meet quarterly, some meet every other month.
Well, they could just
It may
be ad
require-
hoc. I mean, if you have a particular issue that is controversial or difficult and you want it to study, you can appoint an ad hoc committee to study. It doesn't have to be a standing committee, and they can take the time that they need to look at the question, make a recommendation, and bring it back to committee.
And I do want to mention too that, I asked, in researching for this and trying to figure out the schedule, I did go to the mayor's office and asked for his opinion regarding, the schedule change and how it is if and how it's taxing on the county employees and the senior directors that have to leave and come back, especially when we go into recess. And so I do have a letter of support from the mayor and his staff, and even a majority of the senior directors of our county departments, all of them that I've been able to speak to are in favor of it. So, just because, again, it gives employees that time back at home when they've been here all day long.
You have to think about PDA as well.
Right,
Because they also have to keep people
Right.
here to keep.
IT.
the building open.
all of them.
All of them.
And so, yeah, it just, and it eliminates that confusion too with constituents on when to speak. Oh, we've had some that have signed up for public forum, but yet it was really for zoning, or vice versa, that kind of thing. So it can help with that as well.
Like I said, I've heard for years from constituents about zoning being at 7 PM, that it was, not very
Part of that
attainable.
whole schedule change was early on when it was,
Yeah.
some of it started at 3 and then some at 5 and then at 7.
Yeah, it went back to the two at-large commissioner, can I be recognized?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. When the two at-large commissioners, they felt like the original commission meeting was at 2 PM on the fourth Monday. And they felt like if they moved it to 5 o'clock, more citizens would come downtown to be involved. And, at the time, we had great participation from community TV and all that. Well, I guess I was the deciding vote. I thought, well, we should try some because it was a test.
Right.
Well, we've let that test go from how many years ago now to in concrete. And so, but we are not seeing the public come down like the original intent was. So, before, I guess a year ago, we said, hey, what if we move the meeting back to 2 o'clock or at least 3 o'clock? But we didn't take any action at that point. But it may be time for our colleagues from the different departments to maybe start the meeting at 3 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock on the fourth Monday. And then hopefully, you'll be done by 6 o'clock at night. And a good idea to move the zonings to a different day of the month too. But,
I agree with your points, especially county staff. I mean, they are spending long hours in this building for meetings, and it's really not an efficient use of their time.
Well, and if you think back to our zoning meetings too, and the constituents of Commissioner Oster's that came and, their kids, because their whole family was there, because they were, adamant about making sure their voice was heard, and so, they're staying. We moved the fast ones up, which is fine, and that's good, but, they're having to stay too when these, they need to be tending to their kids, and,
Right. Right.
it makes it
More convenient.
more convenient and accessible, especially when it comes to zoning. And I feel like that's the majority, if we're, aside from hot button topics, that's the majority of when we see our constituent participation.
Yep, I agree. So,
Is there any downside?
I might just, if I may.
yes, please.
I don't think this is a bad idea at all. I'm wondering if we might not really be, something to think about might be that if we do all of our presentations, all of our honorary resolutions, and then we have contentious items that we might really be in for a long haul on our regular meetings.
We might.
And again, I mean, if we are, we are. That's just what it is, but
But at the same
that
time-
could really add some
sorry.
length.
But at the same time, we're getting rid of that zoning portion. So we don't have to,
We don't have that to
we don't
feel.
have that to interfere with it.
Mhm.
Right. And I've always kind of felt that those meetings need to be on separate days.
Well, it's just hard on those days where we recess
It is.
and, or we end at
Yes,
10 till 7.
it is. So, first, I guess our next step would be to make a motion to,
Well, it still need, like, the red line, so that was what I wanted to put before the rules committee, is for the motion, if we, I guess the motion would be for the law department to work out the process of what our rules would need to change, especially, when you see the ones, if you flip through what's in front of you, work session is mentioned a lot, we've got to go through that and make those changes, and I'm happy to work with the law department.
Can I
Yes.
make just a thought? Because he said something interesting too. And we're talking about moving more stuff around. But what if we move beer board to the fourth Monday between retirement and pension and commission? Put
I
it
thought
at
about
4.
that.
Start the commission meeting at 4, but have that 4 to 5 period be where you have your presentations and things like that. That for the most part, nobody's gonna attend except for the people who are personally invested in it. And then your main business would probably start around 5 when people would be there anyway. So you could have an hour for presentations and honoraries and the rest of it. Just a thought.
I don't love that as much, only in the sense of sometimes our presentation, I think a lot of times our presentations they're specifically, they're for the commission, but they really are for the public. Like chamber comes and presents of like the economic side or our emergency side, or somebody comes to talk about child trafficking. I would hate to move those to a period where it's kind of dead, where it doesn't really get the attention, because I think people.
Just a suggestion.
But,
I hear what you're saying.
Can I comment on one of his points real quick, Commissioner Jay?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I didn't want to interrupt you, you still wanted to go. One thing I did have, I did say that beer board could remain on the third Monday at 4, or we could move it back to the fourth Monday at 4 to allow time for more discussion at the agenda review if we needed 2 hours. If we do have that at 3 o'clock, and again, this would be an optional agenda review. If you're buttoned up and you don't have any questions and you know everything that's on the agenda, you don't need to show up. But So that was also a thought too, just to, because if you look at the draft, can I borrow your mic?
Are you worried at all about the agenda review, like
It's okay.
having the chair and the vice chair there by themselves at some point? Like,
Well, I mean, honestly,
or like
it's,
two commissioners show up but there's the whole staff gonna be there at agenda review in case we need to ask questions?
I think this would be put more onto the commissioner that is bringing the question. If you have an issue with an agenda item and would like to talk to the sponsor of the resolution or the ordinance, this is where you can ask them to come.
But would
If
the whole
not-
staff need to be kind of there on call in case during that agenda review we had a engineering question or a finance?
Well, that's what I'm saying, if,
At least it'd be on company time.
Yeah, during.
right, it's
work
during,
hours.
it's during work hours.
On top of that, most of us are here. If you have a
Right.
question, just call us. We can come down. If we're not here in the room, we can just come right over and answer the question.
And then it could also be incumbent upon the commissioner to make sure whomever they need to speak to is available at this time. And it can be a set time every month. And so this is where you can bring it, so you've got an engineering question. Hey Jim, I've got a question about this on the agenda. Can you come to the agenda review meeting?
I guess we can do that in the, like we do, I mean, we can put that in the forum like we do now. We can say, I wanna pull number 5 for this reason. We can provide some instruction to say, I wanna pull number 5, and please bring this information to the consent, or to the agenda review meeting.
Now, Commissioner, do you view this as something we would need the clerk's office to take minutes or notes or?
I think it's almost like commission
Or is it-
forum.
It's
Yeah.
a forum.
It's an opportunity without violating the Sunshine Act.
Right.
To
To
be able
discuss.
to be able to discuss a matter. If I were creating this, I would make sure that no voting happens
Right.
and you don't need a quorum. It's just an informational
informational,
opportunity
right.
for the commission.
It would also satisfy the thing that you put on, John, about the zoning, so like just being able to talk about.
Right.
Right.
you know, upcoming zoning. It's an open forum,
Mhm.
where we're having those discussions, but in a public way.
Right.
So CTV wouldn't need to be there, but, or would they?
No.
It's up to CTV. I have to look at their group.
Wouldn't have to
It's
be.
public notice and the public is invited, okay? That's all you need to comply with the Public
Right.
Meetings Act. CTV doesn't need to be there to comply with the Public Meetings Act.
I guess the only reason I would keep beer board and zoning's paired up, beer board's usually pretty short,
Yeah.
is that retirement and pension, I'd say about half the meetings I've had for 6 years are well over an hour. And we, I hate to rush through that. It's the stuff, sometimes we dig into, we have one piece of paper that all of a sudden takes an hour to talk about, and it just, having more time there.
Yeah, or they're 20, or they're 15 minutes. There's
Yeah,
never anything in
there's nothing in
between.
between.
It's either over an hour or 15
Or,
minutes.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
just,
the
I mean, you never know until the day of, 'cause,
Commissioner, I have a question for you, Commissioner Jane. I know you had said strike your agenda item number 10. Does what Commissioner Durrett is presenting, does that address many of the things you were gonna bring to the table as well?
yeah, it is, it's a much better job than what I was just kind of bringing it up, you actually did the entire work, so good job, but yeah, it's pretty much just, where do we overlap our redundancies, how can we be more efficient with our time? I'm trying to just think through, there are times where I have appreciated the extra week of time to either mull stuff over or I went to the work session with one opinion, and after a lot of presentation, I kind of left going, And I wonder could that be done in a concentrated, shorter amount of time, all at one time? I guess I could still change my mind based on the presentation, but I did appreciate it sometimes, it gave me a week to kind of go, maybe I need to think about this differently.
Right.
One option though to always consider, if you have a question that comes up that's thorny or needs more discussion, you can always delay it to the next month.
That's true, we can always delay it, we can always say we want more
You
time.
know what you need to look at.
So I don't, I'm just thinking through
Right.
the why, and I don't see any reason why we couldn't find other tools to accomplish the same thing, so.
And again, that does bring back the point of you can ask the sponsor of an agenda item to come to that optional agenda review because you have questions and request their presence and request they bring more information to you.
Yeah, no, you could, and you can always pull, you can
So
always
have a
create
week.
another committee if you get into something.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the efficiency, I mean, I do, and I do, it is really hard to focus at 9, 10, 11, 12 when your day started at 5 in the morning. And like, and it's just, we have been to those, you know, John and I, the 1:45 in the morning ones where you know it's the constraint, and it's just, it's harder on everyone, so I'd second your motion, and just go ahead and make I mean, if we vote on it to make a recommendation and get on with it, I think the more lead time that we present to the staff and everyone, the better.
So we have a motion. You wanna repeat your motion?
So motion to,
Whatever it was.
right, I'm not really sure at this point. Talked it to death. Look at us. Motion to
Adopt
review,
draft.
to, what's that?
Adopt draft.
Adopt the draft, I mean, and this is,
Amend the rules to
I'm in the
eliminate the
rule,
work
yeah,
session.
let me let the law department speak to my motion.
Amend whatever part of the rules that relate to the work session. Move the zoning portion, right, of our commission meeting to the third Monday at 5. Have the regular session remain at the fourth Monday at 5. Create an optional agenda review on the third Monday at 3 o'clock that allows no votes, requires no quorum. And I think that covers it.
And then, so we have a motion by Commissioner Durrett, a second by Commissioner Jay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, all right. We will move on then. Thank you, Commissioner Durrett.
You're welcome.
That's great.
So if this is adopted by commission, Madam Chair, it wouldn't go effective until the second. Is that what part of the motion?
September 1st.
I think that's part of it.
Yes, part of the motion,
September
September 1st.
And therefore, when we do orientation for new commissioners in August, like, we would wanna prepare them for how this schedule is gonna change.
Yes,
Okay, well,
Yes.
advanced. Okay, that's still good.
all
I
right.
think too, if we adopt this, that it would be very important for the the commissioners that are already here, and hopefully commissioners like Commissioner Durrett and myself to set the tone that even though these are not required, that they are optional, that if you're gonna really figure
Yes.
anything out,
That's important.
you
Yes.
probably need to
Gotta be there.
plan to be
Absolutely.
there, yeah. Because I do have some concerns about, you know, if you don't do your homework, so anyway.
That is a very valid
Side.
Can I just ask in a separate question, we already passed the motion, but the agenda items are due usually, you know, the first or depending on the calendar, a couple days before. And it's the first issue of it is released
The
The first Wednesday. of the
first
month.
Wednesday, okay.
First Wednesday of the month, and then the second Thursday is when it's published.
Second Thursday published, first Wednesday is seen, because I always kind of take that first cursory, like, what's the ballpark look like, and
Yeah.
then published, then you get more of the details, so that still gives you the Thursday before, if there's a lot of details, and then we poll consent, and
It really doesn't change.
we're really
No,
not
it
pulling
doesn't
consent
change.
anymore, oh, well,
Well, I mean, you are, but you're gonna talk about those
Yeah.
at
Okay.
the legislative meeting. But that's how we create what is consent and what is not.
Okay.
So it'll already, I mean, we could essentially already have it separated on the agenda as this is consent and this isn't, because there will not be any formal action until we get to the legislative agenda.
That helps the confusion. I remember when we kind of retooled this, it was the confusion of we had two different agendas, that looked two different formats and all.
Right, and so we will have one agenda, and it could even say, you know, these, by that point, we will know what's consent and what isn't.
Yeah, okay,
Because we will not be able to
makes a lot of sense.
vote
I have
to approve or move forward.
I have a question. So right now, the commission and zoning agenda is together.
Mhm.
So if you do it this way, is there gonna be two different agendas that needs to go out at the beginning of the month?
I think it could still be together because the agendas are still being released at the same time.
But
Two
the
separate-
letter-
two separate- I think it'd have to be
Two
separate.
separate
Well, I mean, they
items.
could be two separate, sure, but they would still be
think they go out on the same day, but they are
Right.
two separate.
They would be,
agendas.
yeah,
Just one of them restart.
So they wouldn't
Yeah.
be split.
Yes,
Yeah.
I guess.
all right. Moving
One more
on.
question, sorry, so I'm
Sure.
going through
Sorry.
all of these because there's a lot of highlights that we have to address. Should we work with Commissioner
I-
Barrett or
yes.
Commissioner Frazier and?
Commissioner
Okay.
Yes. Thank you all, good discussion. Moving on to number 7, discussion of placing zoning request approved on consent by planning commission at the beginning of the county commission zoning meeting to be read individually. This would impact Rule 7D order of procedure. Commissioner Schoonmaker, you have the
Thank you,
floor.
Madam Chair. This request would be to allow the landowners, builders, and developers who've worked with the community on a rezoning, and then they receive a placement on the Knox County planning agenda designated as a consent item. And of course, as we all know, that a consent item on Knox planning means that there was no contact from either on the rezoning on either email, phone, phone call, and or even a letter. And so, and of course, then no one comes to Knox planning and opposes this rezoning. So what we would be in essence doing is allowing those individuals who've done all this work in advance and there's nothing that's no one in the community opposes, that those people would then earn the right to go to the top of the zoning agenda so that those items can be heard first. Because most of them are, read the thing, is there any opposition? No, boom, we vote, we go on. Because what's happened over time is we get the data from Knox Planning and put it on the agenda based on the file number. So the last 3 items on the agenda could all be consent items, and they've sat through hours of citizen debate on a particular rezoning, like for instance, like yours last month. What we did a test last month. All consent items were at the first of the agenda. So those people got up and went home, and if you're a landowner, builder, or contractor, if you've done your homework and the community's happy with what you're doing, go home. And of course, this would also apply if you have a sector plan amendment as well, where it's tied together. So it just seems like a logical transition to go, if the public has no problem with this, go to the top of the agenda. If someone shows up to our commission meeting and says, hey, I'm opposed to this, well, then we get to hear that at that point, but. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Would you consider it, are you suggesting that we have a consent agenda as part of zonings, or each one is?
No, just when we listed by that number, the first one is file, R-27, whatever.
It's just
It
the
just says,
order.
it's just
Yeah,
the order,
just the
because it went through there as,
Okay.
on their consent part at the beginning of the agenda, but since we're taking legislative action, it's just those that are.
See Mike shake his head
Yeah,
real fast.
yeah.
No.
No, it still has to be read individually and recorded and a vote taken and all that. But it just seems like, hey, if we're making people come down, let's let them get out the door at
So
a reasonable
in
time.
effect, it requires a 14
Yeah, whatever it was, well, it's,
14-0 consent or
and it
whatever
always
it is.
says, it's always
Not only
transmitted.
from the planning commission, but from the Knox plan.
No,
Knox-
no,
Just
there's a
the
difference,
Planning
there's a
commission.
difference. The planning
I know there's a
commission,
difference, that's why I was asking.
when the planning commission does their consent agenda, what it is, it's those
Yeah.
applications, there's no contact, and they take one vote.
Mhm.
When it's transmitted over to us, it says 14-0 if those were the number present, and it says consent. Now, they may go to the next item, and that's a 14-0 vote, but it wasn't on consent. It's
Okay.
only those that were
Oh,
designated through Knox
Okay.
Planning
Gotcha.
with no public opposition.
Who creates that agenda for us?
Knox Planning,
Planning commission.
and then they
Planning
transmit it to
staff.
Drew. And so last month, Drew, as a test, which was great, we put all those at the top, they flew right through.
Now, are the items that go on planning consent, that's the one committee in this building I've never spent a lot of time with, Are they always cases where the planning commission is in accord with the planning staff?
Yeah.
So,
No.
that's.
No, they're not.
But no, I'm saying, what do you,
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say we got a piece of PR. Somebody wants to rezone PR at 4 units per acre. Planning staff recommends 4 units per acre. Is it always going to be the case if the matter is on consent that the planning commission and the staff are on the same page? Or is there ever a situation where planning staff says 4, planning commission says 3, but it gets on
it
consent?
never gets to that,
That's what I.
because in their agenda review process too, that's another red flag if something is controversial. These are non-controversial items. So what happens is they take one vote on all the consent things at the beginning of the agenda, then they start their regular agenda. So there's no, yeah, because we're the legislative body, yes, absolutely.
I would just suggest that if we do this, even if there's no debate or anything else, that the motion be framed in terms of, we're going to approve this per planning commission recommendation.
Oh, yeah, we would do it like we normally do now. They're just order is shifting.
Because you never know,
Yeah,
even
we're
if
just shifting
something,
order.
even if something is not controversial, even if it goes on consent, somebody could still bring a challenge to it in court.
And that's
For whatever
totally
reason.
understood.
And so I have to be in a position where I can say, they had all this information in front of them, this was the recommendation, therefore they had a rational basis for doing what they're doing. So that's why we don't just do consent, because we.
Yeah, and that's what I would ask. I would ask Commissioner Schoonmaker to work with the law department and planning to bring forward a recommendation.
Okay, what we're basically doing is we're taking our set agenda as we currently have it and changing the order, just like we did last month. That's all we're doing. Nothing's changing. Nothing from planning's changing. Nothing. It's just when Drew receives the paperwork, she goes, okay, number 1's consent, number 7's consent, number's 12 consent. Now I'm gonna make them 1, 2, and 3, and then we're gonna go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You need a
That's all
motion
it
out
is.
of this committee to do this as a rule change?
It's a rule
Yeah.
change.
It is, yeah, because it's the order of procedure. It'd be Rule 7, Section D, order of procedure.
I'll make a motion to reorder, to amend our zoning meeting agenda by placing the consent item on the planning commission at the top of the order list.
Second. We have a motion by Jay, a second by Dirk. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you for that positive recommendation. I appreciate it.
All right, moving on to agenda item 8, discussion and consideration of amending the structure of and appointments to the beer board. In Rule 5, committees, K, beer board, Commissioner Oster. The floor is yours.
Okay. Jill's passed it around, and thank you, Jill, for working with me on getting this. As I brought this up, thank you, last rule committee, that I would like to see beer board, instead of being full commission as it is right now, change that over to a committee. So it would be done in September, when we do our reorg. And so I think the one thing I've thought about this, and I didn't say anything to Jill because I wanted to get to this point and then talk about it. I had put in here 5, maybe better to move it to 7 members. And so, and I'm good with changing that. And I will just say the reason, I have gotten some phone calls from applicants who felt it was unfair when their commissioner in their district won't give them a license, but they punish them when it comes time to, if there was a problem in that store, restaurant, whatever the situation is. And I understand that there are people who have religious preferences not to be involved with alcohol, and I respect that. So I think it's easier for the people who don't want to participate in beer board to just not be on the committee. And that's the reason that I'm bringing, I mean, we really need to think about our applicants because they are tax-paying citizens that are trying to open a business, doing something legal, but they kind of feel a little slighted by that situation. So that really is the reason that I brought it, was not to to have an issue with anything or anybody's particular feelings. It's just, I feel like it's more fair to the public and to the applicants that's, coming before us, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Oster. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Commissioner Jay?
I agree with Commissioner Oster on this. We've talked about this before, and I think if you're gonna participate, you're at the end. There's no language in here that says, though, if you're gonna be part of the beer board, you're gonna be part of all the procedures. I'm wondering if that is necessary, because I can still see a commissioner saying, I wanna be part of the beer board, and then getting on there and still doing the exact same thing. Can we put language in here that says, anybody who is going to serve on the beer board must participate in all motion, in all
Categories.
all votes, or something like that, or can you require that so that they don't
Can we do that?
pull the same thing?
I mean, okay, it doesn't fix it because you can participate and vote by passing, by abstaining. You'd have to say that all commissioners must vote yes or no. And that's kind of a dangerous road to go down, when you start telling each other what you have to do.
I have a thought, because, thank you, Madam Chair. Because technically, they're still participating now, right? They're still voting. They're not abstaining. No one is recusing themselves or anything, so they still go down as a yes vote, whether they say it to the microphone or not. I think the language maybe should be, if your district has a business that is before the beer board, you have to participate in the it goes to you. It does not go to the at-large commissioner. If that makes sense. You can.
I don't know if it would still prevent somebody from
Well,
saying,
I think your intention is to create it as a standing committee, correct?
Correct.
And so therefore, you wouldn't have every district
That's true.
commissioner
That's true.
on the standing committee. It would just be 7 members, and they would, just like we do with all of our other boards and committees, is anyone interested in serving on this board? You nominate, and that's how you fill those roles. Commissioner Schumacher, did you have a comment?
I certainly do, and I will have to credit our very astute law partner here to my left. The way you have the language, the committee ID, by the way, is awesome. And I think you're right on 7, just because of the emphasis and stuff. But I think that if you're serving on the committee, all actions are by roll call vote. Because right now, we got people that are staying silent,
Yes.
and we're passing beer licenses.
with 2 of us going yes, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
So I
so
like
that,
that, I like the roll call vote.
that, you can put that in your rules, that every
Yes.
Yeah.
transaction is a roll call vote. And then
Yes. I think
if you don't wanna be on the committee, you're gonna get off pretty quickly.
I don't mean to ask a weird question, but I'm gonna ask a weird question. Do committee members, does this committee
it won't
members?
be the first one.
That won't be the last one. Does this committee member because it's the beer board and beer board laws, does it have to be made up of commissioners? Or can it be,
Well,
can
I
it be
mean,
made up?
that's choice. It does not have to be. You could appoint a group of 7 citizens to be your board if you wish.
I'm not
I'm
gonna
not saying
say
That's a good question. Do we want to have?
I'm just saying.
Tonight.
That's a good question. Like,
It's a fair question, however, I do not feel comfortable with it being
oh, this is
anyone
a
other than
responsibility.
that. Yes, this is something we're tasked with doing, people elect us for
Is
this
there,
reason.
I do have a question about the red line.
Yes, Commissioner Jacobs.
Commissioner Oster, did you chair did you strike the chair of the beer board, like the vice chair is the chair of the beer board for a reason?
Well, what if your vice chair does not want to serve?
Yeah.
So just like a standing committee, you would elect a chair and a vice chair
For-
once you
Once the
establish your
committee's-
board.
Once the committee's formed.
That makes sense. Got it.
So, Jill, we would need to change in here, add the roll call,
Yes.
that it would be a roll call vote, and 7 members instead of 5 members. Do we want to move this forward, or, I mean, I'm good with coming back the next time that we meet with the changes, because it's not gonna go
You
I'll
do.
second it if you want
Okay.
to come up.
Yes, I think we make the motion.
When do you want this to go into effect?
September 1st.
September?
Could I
So put that
ask,
in your motion.
just make a comment? I like it all too. I hate to have, especially a new commissioner though not be able to serve if they really want this to be a part of their experience? And I kind of even wonder about the 7-member, because I'm thinking, I mean, I think realistically, we have 2 or maybe 3 at this point in time that tend to choose not to participate. 2 of those are rolling off. I just hate, I guess I just hate to leave anybody out if they really would want to take this as their, as part of their role.
And I do, and I understand that, but just like we get to, we do that right before reorg, is Drew sends out the committees and people sign up for what they think they'd be interested in. If there's a new member and I say I'll be on beer board, but a new member really wants to do it and we need that space, I'm happy to roll off of beer board because I've been on it and give that person that opportunity. So it's really 4 members of commission that's not gonna be on there, and, so.
I see, that sort of takes care of it.
And I think this is one of those we could put,
Okay.
we could almost encourage new people to go on it, because the laws are kind of set, like.
They are.
There's
They're
not a
very
lot,
cut and dry.
it's kind of a good way to kind of get your feet wet with not a lot of stuff that isn't already determined, so.
Yeah, right.
Fair,
All
that's
right,
fair.
Commissioner Oster, would you like to make the motion?
Okay, do I need to make the motion to add the 7 members and the roll call?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make the motion to, move beer board to a committee during reorg for 7 members, with roll call votes. And for this to go into effect September 1, 2024. Is that good? Did I hit everything?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Oster, a second by Jay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, will this be on our May agenda?
If you wanted it in May, I guess you could do it anytime, really.
I could do them all at once and get it over with.
Yeah.
Is there one?
But you need this ordinance to be added and approved by
By,
July
Yeah.
first reading. Yeah. And then the resolution could wait till September at the reorganization.
Hey, well, go ahead.
You have to change, there's an ordinance
Ordinance
involved,
change.
yeah, to make, to do it. 'Cause right now, it says the county commission, administers beer laws for the county.
So could we
yeah.
but could we change the ordinance proactive to like September 1? Go ahead and do that.
always-
setting 2
You
readings.
can always,
So we could do it May, June.
Well, I was gonna just, for the rules, put a resolution in effective September 1st. I wasn't gonna distribute rules in May with those changes
Right.
yet. I was just gonna wait to put them in actually in September.
I think
Okay.
But, so the ordinance, you don't have to add in July.
Right.
We're not we're not gonna do it, you're just,
Yeah, okay.
that's what I was planning to do, is that.
that's
Yeah,
no,
no, that's
that's
fine.
good. All right, thank you. Moving on to our last item on the agenda, discussion, consideration, reviewing the rule, function, procedure, structure of county village boards and committees in Rule 5, committee and boards. All right, so we've kind of spent a great deal of time looking over these and discussing all the committees and boards. And what we know is we have a lot of them. And we also know that most of them fall under some sort of state law, a county charter, a county code, or organizations by law. There are those that were created by commission or with an MOU or a contract with a group or organization. And so after a lot of discussion with the law department, we really cannot identify any that should be dissolved or combined. I know that's probably not what we were all hoping. The ones that can be considered are the Arena Use Committee, but this is created in an MOU between UT, Knox County, and PBA. The Disability Advisory Group, that is from a resolution by the mayor. Ethics Committee is created in the Code of Ethics, approved by a resolution of the commission and the mayor. The Employee Insurance Benefits Committee, it's approved by resolution of the commission and the mayor. Fire and Technical Rescue Committee, it was formed by the mayor to provide oversight and approved by resolution of the commission. Joint Education Committee, formed to improve communication among commission and Knox County Schools by resolution of commission. Three Ridges Golf Board, it was formed by resolution of the commission and the mayor. Personnel Committee formed by resolution of commission to provide oversight. And then Visit Knoxville Board, it's created as stated in the contract with them. So I don't have a recommendation of slimming down the number of boards and committees. They all seem to serve a very valid purpose. What we are doing is Drew and I have gone through and we have looked at the fact sheets. We're going to amend the fact sheets a little bit to include information for each board and committee that includes name, when it was created, the legal authority, the appointment, the members, qualifications or requirements of those members, their term, the duties and purpose of the body, the meeting schedule and location, and then a contact person. So we're gonna work on that. And then we're also going to create a single binder that will have and house every fact sheet with tabs so that any commissioner, if they wanna know, well, when does this committee meet? They can come to that single binder instead of going through all the binders. Find it, locate it. If there's a contact they need to reach out to, it's there. And so that's where we are on that, if the body's okay with that. Sadly, again, you know, we looked at these long and hard, and I know Commissioner Jay had looked at them too.
Yeah, we did it 6 years
Yeah,
ago.
it's
The
just,
first year I was on it, so it's just been like 4 years.
right.
And same conclusion.
And so additionally, what we are going to do, you all have a draft letter. We are going to send this letter along with the Knox County Code of Ethics policy and also the attendance policy to all of the boards and committees and just encourage them to go by those. If they don't have an ethics policy or if they don't have an attendance policy, we're providing them with one. We can't force them to, however, we will encourage them to implement and adopt these policies. If they have an ethics policy or an attendance policy, they may want to update it. So if everyone can take a look at that, if you're okay with this letter, yes, Director Booth.
I've been on that ethics committee since I started on that. And what you gotta be careful of is getting a committee to create their own ethics, which might be in contradiction with state law, because our ethics resolution, our ethics committee was created pursuant to 8-17-105. And so it applies under the statute to every elected official or every employee of Knox County. I mean, that's what the state law says. So I can say, if somebody wants their own separate, or some committee wants its own separate ethics policy, be sure that it doesn't in any way contradict or raise any issues with the already existing one, which applies by definition to every employee and every elected official and every committee.
Everybody.
Director Booth, do you
Everybody.
have any suggested revisions to this letter that would take care of that concern or address that concern? And you can send it to me.
I'll just send it to you, but it would just be that thing about, I would in the letter, let it be known that all ethics, in fact, every elected official, every employee is required under that ethics resolution to undergo training from, who does the training, Jill?
Human Resources, Anthony Smith.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, he does a very good job. I went through it, everybody in the law department went through it when they came in, and it's required, so.
Okay.
And the new commissioners are required to undergo that training.
Is that required for appointees also?
For what?
Appointees?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, anybody that's gonna do anything under the municipal or county government has got to go through that.
Who administers it again?
HR.
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 And it's, again, his name, he's very good at it. He doesn't bog
Well,
you down.
you did it during
I think it's online now.
orientation or C-test. I think maybe you did it during you would have normally done it with the C-test, but you may not have been with the C-test year because you came in the COVID year.
Because you didn't have that.
Yeah, you didn't do it there. Because most of that training that C-test provides
Yeah.
is like
And
2 days out of
CTAS,
jail.
what we adopted, the state law said that MTAS for the municipalities, CTAS for the counties will come up with a model, policy. And we, with just a few tweaks, adopted the CTAS policy. That's what we have right now.
Director Booth, Working Orders, do we need to make a motion if this is just, we're not making any changes to any rules, we're just kind of doing some housekeeping?
I don't think it requires much.
Okay, if the body's comfortable, we'll move forward with this. So that brings us to number 12. Do we have any other business? Seeing none, we want to schedule our next meeting? Sure. Let's see. Yes, we were. Quarterly.
July.
I think that's great.
11th for no other reason than I just looked at it personally now.
Let's see.
Investment committee's at 2:30, that conflicts with the investment.
Investment committee at
So
2:30.
that's probably just me.
July the 11th?
Yeah, but I think that's just me, I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. July the 11th, 3 o'clock again, does that work? All right, next meeting is July the 11th, 3 p.m. If there's nothing further, we are adjourned.